My name is Sofia. 35 years of a life that, from a distance, seemed perfect. A 10-year marriage to Daniel, my husband, a charming and ambitious businessman. 2 daughters, Anna and Clara, the light of my life. An impeccable house in Jardins, weekends at the beach, international trips. The modern fairy tale, right? Wrong. Inside, I was an empty shell, an echo of the woman I once was. Daniel's laughter became hollow, his hugs perfunctory. Passion, a distant blur that even memory couldn't reach. We were 2 strangers living under the same golden roof, each imprisoned in their own version of loneliness. The routine was a cruel carousel. Wake up, silent breakfast, Daniel off to the family business, I to my mornings between Pilates class and coffee with friends, all with lives as perfect as mine, each hiding their own crack beneath the polished surface. Afternoons were dedicated to the girls, homework, swimming, ballet. And the nights were the worst. The silence of the house after the children slept was deafening. Daniel, immersed in spreadsheets or on his phone, I, lost in books that didn't fulfill me, movies that didn't move me. Intimacy was reduced to a hurried goodnight kiss, a rhetorical, "Are you okay?" I felt invisible, a decorative piece in my own life. That's when Arthur appeared, not as a savior, but as an unexpected storm that turned my world upside down. I met him at a friend's art gallery. It was a rainy autumn afternoon, the kind of day that invites you to stay home wrapped in a blanket. But my friend insisted I go. "Sofia, you need to get out a bit, breathe. There's a new artist, the pieces are incredible." Reluctantly, I went. The gallery was almost empty, lit by a soft light that highlighted the sculptures and paintings. It was in front of an abstract canvas, a whirlwind of vibrant colors, that I saw him. He wasn't looking at the art, he was absorbing it. His gaze was intense, his brown hair slightly messy, a discreet smile playing on his lips as he stroked his chin. He noticed my presence, and his eyes, a deep green that seemed to see into the soul, met mine. There was no cliché, no stumbling, just a husky, "Hello." And I, with a choked voice, replied, "Hello." We started talking about the painting, about art, about life. I discovered that Arthur was a graphic designer, but his true passion was photography. He saw the world in a way I had forgotten existed, with colors, with textures, with depth. He spoke with a passion that set the room on fire, and I, accustomed to Daniel's calculated coldness, found myself melting in those green eyes. That day, we exchanged numbers and vague promises of a coffee. I knew I was flirting, that I was crossing a line, but the adrenaline coursing through my veins was addictive, an emotion I hadn't felt in years. Coffee turned into lunch, lunch turned into long dinners, and dinners, conversations that stretched into the early hours through text messages that I hid like a treasure. Arthur saw me. He really saw me. Not Daniel's wife, not the girl's mother, but Sofia, the woman with forgotten dreams, with dormant passions, with an insatiable thirst for something more. He complimented me not on my clothes, but on my intelligence, my sense of humor, my curiosity. The connection was palpable, electric. The betrayal, when it happened, was less a decision and more an inevitability. There was no meticulous planning, no immediate remorse. There was only the urgency of a thirsty soul finding an oasis. The first time was in an apartment Arthur rented for his photography projects. A simple place, smelling of paint and coffee, but for me, it was a sanctuary. The feeling of being desired, of being whole again, was overwhelming. It was as if I was waking up from a deep sleep, realizing that real life, vibrant and full of meaning, was happening outside my golden walls. Encounters with Arthur became my best-kept secret, my escape from the sterile reality I lived with Daniel. I felt guilty, yes. Guilt was a constant weight, an uncomfortable whisper in my conscience, but the need to feel alive was greater. With every shared laugh with Arthur, every touch, every complicit glance, I convinced myself that I was doing what was necessary to survive. It was a matter of sanity, I told myself, a matter of finding a piece of me that had been lost somewhere between financial spreadsheets and business dinners. The shock came like lightning from a clear sky, but not in the way I expected. It wasn't Daniel who discovered the betrayal. It was someone else. It was a monotonous Monday. My phone rang, an unknown number. I hesitated, but answered. A female voice, soft but firm, on the other end of the line. "Sofia, my name is Gabriella. I know who you are, and I know about you and Arthur." My heart skipped a beat, then chilled, then began to pound in my chest. My entire body stiffened. "I don't know what you're talking about." My voice came out weak, almost a whisper. "Oh, yes you do," she replied, without a hint of anger, just a cold statement. "I'm Arthur's girlfriend, and I need you to meet me, urgently." The ground disappeared beneath my feet. Arthur? Girlfriend? My world spun. I didn't know what to do, what to think. The betrayer had been betrayed. The irony was cruel, and the pain lacerating. I thought I had found a paradise, but it was just another mirage. Gabriella continued, "It's not about Arthur. It's about your family's company, your husband's company. I can save it, but I need you. I'll wait for you tomorrow, 10 a.m., at the coffee shop on Avenida Paulista in front of Trianon Park. Don't be late." And she hung up. The night was hell. I barely slept, my head in a whirlwind of thoughts. Who was Gabriella? Why did she know about me and Arthur? And most importantly, what did she have to do with Daniel's family business? My father had founded Construções Almeida, a construction company that had been the pride of our family for decades, and which Daniel had inherited and been managing for the past 5 years. There had been rumors of difficulties, but Daniel always minimized them. Market crisis, Sofia, nothing we can't overcome. But the coldness at home, the increase in business trips, the late-night calls, everything took on a new and somber meaning. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop with a knot in my stomach. Gabriella was already there, sitting at a discreet table in the corner. She was stunning. Shiny black hair, almond-shaped eyes, a natural elegance that made me feel small and awkward. She wasn't wearing a ring. That calmed me down a bit. I sat across from her, my hands trembling slightly. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice calm and controlled. "I know it must be difficult." "What do you want?" I asked, getting straight to the point. "And how do you know about Arthur?" "Arthur is my fiancé," she began, and the word fiancé hit me like a punch. "We've been together for 5 years. He didn't tell you, did he? I'm not surprised. He has a history of omissions. But that doesn't matter now. What matters is Construções Almeida." My eyebrows furrowed. What does my family have to do with that? Gabriella sighed and pulled a folder from her bag. "My name is Gabriella Santana. I'm a financial analyst, specialized in restructuring companies in crisis. And Construções Almeida is in serious trouble. Not a market crisis, Sofia, a management crisis. And fraud." My body froze. "Fraud? What are you talking about?" "Your husband, Daniel, has been diverting company funds for at least 3 years. He has a complex scheme of shell companies and inflated contracts. Construções Almeida is on the verge of bankruptcy. Your family will lose everything." I felt the air leave my lungs. Daniel? My husband? The man I had betrayed, but who was the father of my daughters? He was a criminal? The image of the charming and impeccable man shattered into 1,000 pieces before my eyes. It was as if my own blindness was a crime. "How do you know all this?" My voice barely came out. "Arthur," she replied, and my heart tightened again. "He's a genius with computers. He hacked into Construções Almeida's system for me. He owed me a favor, a very big favor." She paused, her gaze fixed on mine. "He was cheating on me, but I already knew. He always does that. But this time, he was involved with a woman who had access to something I needed, and I used him to get it." The revelation was a whirlwind of emotions. Betrayed by Arthur, but he had been Gabriella's tool. Daniel, the perfect husband, a thief. The irony was so dense it could almost be cut. But why was she telling me all this? "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, suspicious. "Because I want to save Construções Almeida," she said, her voice gaining a tone of authority. "And you are the key. Your family is a client of our consulting firm, Phoenix Restructurings. They contacted us a few months ago, desperate. But Daniel was blocking all our efforts. He doesn't want the truth to come out. He wants the company to die to cover his tracks." "And what can I do?" I asked, feeling a glimpse of hope mixed with despair. "You have access. You're the wife. No one will suspect you. I need you to help me gather more evidence, to access documents, emails. I have a plan, but I need you to execute it. You have the chance to save your family's legacy and your daughter's future." She opened the folder and showed me complex graphs, spreadsheets with red numbers, copies of contracts I recognized from Daniel's company. The evidence was overwhelming. I saw my world implode and, at the same time, a new door open, the chance for redemption, not just for the family business, but for myself. I had betrayed, yes, but Daniel was a criminal. And what was worse, loyalty to a man who was destroying everything, or the fight to save what was right? The choice was clear. "I'll help you," I said, my voice now firm, hesitation giving way to fierce determination. "But on one condition. I want to participate in the entire restructuring process. I want to learn. I want to make sure the company recovers, and I want Daniel to pay for what he did." Gabriella smiled, a smile that lit up her face and revealed impressive strength. "Agreed. Welcome to Phoenix. We're going to save Construcciones Almeida, together." And so began the most surreal and challenging phase of my life. I, the trophy wife, secretly working with my lover's fiancé to expose my own husband and save my family's company. Our meetings became routine, in coffee shops, in parks, in parked cars. Gabriella instructed me, taught me. She was brilliant, a born strategist. She explained financial statements, cash flow, forensic audits. I absorbed everything like a sponge. Every detail, every technical term was a weapon in our fight. My mind, previously dormant from idleness, awakened with a hunger for knowledge that surprised me. The challenge was to maintain the facade with Daniel. He was increasingly tense, more withdrawn. The pressure on the company was evident, even to those who didn't understand numbers. I pretended to be worried, asked about the situation, but he dismissed me with evasions. "Don't worry, darling. Business matters. You wouldn't understand." That phrase, once annoying, was now a blessing. He suspected nothing. I was just the wife, too distracted to worry about finances. That stereotype, which had diminished me for years, was now my protection. I became a spy in my own home. Hidden cameras in Daniel's office, installed by a contact of Gabriella's. Recordings of conversations that revealed his desperation and arrogance. Photocopies of documents I found in his folders and sent to Gabriella via an encrypted messaging app. Every small victory was an adrenaline rush. Every piece of the puzzle, proof of the rot hidden beneath the veneer of success. The complicity with Gabriella grew. At first, there was a strange tension and discomfort in being united by a man who had betrayed both of us. But over time, mutual admiration and a common goal superseded any resentment. She told me about the complexity of finance, and I about Daniel's web of relationships and manipulations in the company. We became a cohesive team, each with our skills, working in perfect sync. There was a tacit respect, a sisterhood born from the ashes of betrayal and deception. She, who was my lover's mistress, became my mentor and ally. The irony did not escape me, but the beauty of the connection outweighed any judgment. When Daniel was finally confronted with the irrefutable evidence, the shock was monumental. It wasn't us, Gabriella and I, who exposed him. It was an extraordinary board meeting called by minority shareholders who were alarmed by rumors of the crisis. Gabriella and her Phoenix restructurings team presented a devastating report with all the evidence we had collected. I was present, of course, sitting silently, watching Daniel's house of cards collapse. Daniel's expression shifted from shock to fury, from fury to despair. He denied, stammered, tried to manipulate, but the evidence was irrefutable. It was his own emails, his own transactions, his own recordings that condemned him. The room filled with murmurs and accusations. Gradually, all those who defended him, moved by loyalty or blindness, turned against him. The Securities Commission had already been alerted by Gabriella, and a formal investigation was opened. Daniel was immediately removed from the presidency, and his arrest was only a matter of time. My revelation came next, not dramatically, but as a natural consequence of events. When Daniel's father, my father-in-law, heartbroken and confused, asked who would take the reins of Construções Almeida, Gabriela looked at me. Sofia, she was instrumental in exposing the fraud, and she has been preparing to lead the restructuring. She understands the company inside and out. Everyone in the room looked at me, some with surprise, others with suspicion, but many with new respect. My father-in-law, the man who had always seen me only as Daniel's wife, looked at me with a spark of hope. "Would you do it, Sofia? For us?" I took a deep breath. It was my chance. The chance to prove my worth, to save my family's legacy, to secure my daughter's future, and to redeem myself. Yes, I will, and I will not fail. Daniel's divorce was inevitable. It was painful for the children, but I explained that some people make wrong decisions and that love and truth always prevail. He was tried, convicted, and imprisoned. The shame for the family was immense, but the honesty, transparency, and my leadership in the company's recovery, commanding alongside Gabriela, brought a new kind of respect.
Construções Almeida went through a painful but necessary restructuring process. Gabriela and I worked tirelessly, side by side. We fired dishonest employees, renegotiated debts, won the trust of creditors. We applied Cialdini's principles, not only in the restructuring but in communicating with the market. The social proof of our initial results, Gabriela's authority in the sector, the commitment and consistency we demonstrated in facing the crisis head-on, and the reciprocity we sought with our partners and clients, acting with honesty to rebuild trust. The liking I already had with the Almeida family, and that Gabriela gradually gained with everyone in the company, was also crucial. And, surprisingly, the end of my story wasn't about finding a new romantic love, nor about revenge. It was about discovery. One day, while tidying up old papers in Daniel's room, which was now my office, I found an old box at the back of a dusty cupboard. Inside, yellowed photos, letters, some old documents, and a birth certificate. Not Daniel's, but mine, with a different father's name. A name I vaguely recognized from old family conversations, always whispered. A name of a former partner of my grandfather. I read the letters and documents with a pounding heart. They were from my mother. She had had an affair before marrying my father, and that man was my biological father, my true father. And, surprisingly, he was the founder of Phoenix Restructurings, Gabriela's company, the company she had inherited from him. The penny dropped like thunder. Gabriela and I were sisters, half-sisters to be exact. The woman who had exposed me, who helped me destroy the man who betrayed me, to save my family's company, was my sister. And she had found me not by chance, but because I was the key, the missing piece, to unravel a much bigger mystery. My mother, who was always so reserved, kept this secret her entire life. My father, the man who raised me, never knew the truth. And Daniel, the scoundrel, who caused me so much pain, indirectly led me to my true family, to my purpose. I confronted my mother with the certificate and letters in hand. Tears streamed down her aged face. She told me the story of a forbidden love, of a secret kept for decades to protect the family. And I, who had lived under the weight of secrets, understood, and I forgave her. It wasn't easy, but our relationship strengthened with the truth, no matter how painful it was. As for Gabriela, the revelation was a whirlwind of emotions: surprise, joy, and a strange feeling that the universe had conspired to unite us. We hugged, sisters by blood, united by betrayal, redemption, and rebuilding. The relationship with Arthur? I broke up with him, of course. He was a tool, not a partner, and the truth about his character was irrefutable. Today, Construções Almeida thrives again. I am the CEO, Gabriela is my main consultant and advisor, and together we form an unbeatable team. My daughters, Anna and Clara, have a mother who is strong, independent, and, above all, authentic. They see a woman who rose from the ashes, who faced her demons, and who built her own path. Betrayal led me to self-destruction, but, ironically, it also led me to my true identity, my true family, and my true purpose. And I realized that sometimes life forces us to break so that we can rebuild ourselves in a stronger and truer way. The pain was immense, but the freedom I found in the process was priceless. I lost a marriage, but I gained a sister, a company, and, most importantly, myself.